sometimes when I ask a friend or a colleague, how are you? And they kind of like go, oh, well, busy. And I say busy is good, right? I mean, busy means you're occupied, you're productive, you're live. And they shrug and frown and go, well, I guess. When did busy lose its shine? When did it become not so productive and insanely hectic? Ironically, in this day and age when we are aided by a myriad of machines and gadgets, are we doing more but getting less done? We're getting some thoughts today from my guest Susan Sadler, who is a career and executive coach at Sadler Communications Pte Ltd. She's also the past president of the International Coach Federation Singapore chapter. Susan, welcome into the show.
Thank you.
All right, let's talk about this term busyness with a hyphen. Busy-ness. What's causing all these busyness?
Well, I think people these days have full lives, very, very full lives, career, family, other obligations, and certainly technology, gadgets. It's almost hard to keep up with the newest release of every single thing that's coming on board. That's part of it. Just as an example, 90 trillion emails flew through cyberspace in 2009. So it's full lives. There's a lot going on, and a lot of priorities.
And just like I was saying earlier, presumably there was a time when being busy used to signal something good, right? Because you're doing things, you're productive, you're earning money. But these days it's becoming more of a bad word, really. When people say, "Oh, I'm so busy," it's not really a good thing. When did this become, a negative thing in our society?
Yeah, I think there's some kind of point of diminishing return, and we're seeing that kind of flip-flop. I certainly never hear anyone say, boy, I sure wish I had more to do. I never get that.
Right.
I get this thing, I'm so busy. And there's to a certain extent, busy does sound good, productive, right? And it's not always the case.
Yeah.
It can be so overwhelming for many, many people. To just juggle the priorities, the things they need to do on a daily basis.
And you mentioned earlier there are a couple of factors for this. I mean, technology is one thing. It's going at a dizzying pace. Many of us can't even keep up. We think we can, but just going through the number of tweets each day can take up so much time already. So how much of this, I'm wondering, is self-inflicted? This sort of busyness that is not productive.
Some is, and that's the cold hard truth is some of it is self-inflicted, but there are small things you can do. I mean, I guess the key message I would love to give to your listeners today is that we are busy, we have full lives, and if you thought of maybe 1, 2, or 3 things if you could do differently that would have a huge impact on your life, that aren't too taxing and aren't too challenging, you could do that. Just start small. Do something to avoid this, this cycle of I'm so busy.
Right. Okay, so the first step towards perhaps streamlining our lives, from a state where it's kind of like, getting ahead of ourselves, is to bring it down to something smaller, something more focused, isn't it?
Yes.
So what are these small things that you're talking about?
Well, there are a couple of things. Say 3 things I can think of that you could do right away. One is prioritize. Now, that sounds like, we hear that, every day, but if you really think about every day and every week, what are the most important things I need to tackle this today and this week, for example, in the order of importance, and probably posting a Facebook update is low on that list, for example. Second is learn to say no. Now, that may shock some people. You really can. It's about extending your boundaries. And finally, we still have to carve out some downtime for ourselves.
Yes.
That is crucial for our mental and physical health and to allow us to do all these things that we're so busy doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Just like we were talking earlier as well. I mean, it's ironic in this day and age, right, when there's so many machines and gadgets to help us, in a way, become more effective. Has that kind of like fed into this kind of perception that, instead of being humans, we are also like machines, that we also have to respond by a certain number of nanoseconds to an email or an SMS, you know. We're no longer human anymore.
I'm glad you brought that up, this idea of responsiveness. There has been, I see it all the time, an expectation kind of created that you must be available 24/7. You must respond instantly to any text or email. And some of what I'm talking about in terms of prioritization is retraining yourself and retraining others that is an instant reply really necessary? Could a couple of hours be reasonable? I'm not saying, a week later, get back to somebody, but even within a couple of hours, so that you can control how you're approaching your time and your priorities.
Yeah.
So if you're in the middle of writing something, that's really tough then to get back to. And in fact, there was research that says every interruption that happens during the day takes us about 21 minutes to recover from.
Wow. Really?
Yeah, so think about that in a given day.
That's like almost half of every hour, right? That's half your day.
Yes.
Oh gosh, okay. And I can just imagine the number of distractions that we can have, each day. And I'm glad you brought out that part about retraining others, because most of us don't think about that. We think about perhaps retraining ourselves. That's easily understandable, right? But retraining other people to be able to kind of like see your point of view and understand your situation is so crucial as well.
It is, and sometimes it's about having a very open and transparent conversation in a way that is very helpful and collaborative. So, say for example, I was working with a coaching client whose boss, if you can imagine, routinely texted and or emailed him on Friday and Saturday nights at 11:30 at night, and expected a reply. This is a regular business person, not an emergency room physician or stockbroker or anything like that that's doing billion-dollar deals.
Yeah.
So he started, in the interest of starting small, had just a conversation with her and said, just one time, this Saturday night, I have a family obligation, so I won't be able to reply via text or email. And that was it. So guess what? The sky didn't fall. It was okay.
Right.
I mean, really, would the boss expect, the person to be texting if he was attending a family wedding? And it doesn't matter what it is. That's not the point.
Yeah.
You could be having dinner with your kids and your wife or husband.
Yeah. Yeah, this is sort of micromanagement that people, talk about, in a rather negative way, I suppose, when it comes to supervisors. I'm just wondering how much of this pressure to respond as soon as possible is coming from the boss, and how much of it is coming from yourself. Because like you mentioned, I'm sure supervisors also understand. Supervisors know there must be a reasonable time given for responding. And I suppose for bosses, they can be very busy as well. So sometimes when something pops into their head, they just send it off so that, it takes care of itself, whatever time it gets taken care of. Yeah,
Get it off my list.
Yes.
That example that I just gave was an extreme.
Yeah.
It was an extreme example. But here's another example where somebody sends, the boss sends an email to a group of people, 6 or 7 people. Do you have to be the first person to reply to all? Because then you kind of own that conversation, right? You own that chain. Can you just wait a little bit and see who else might jump in?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's an interesting thing, because how much of it then is not really based on the type of work they are doing or the quality of work they are doing, but more on just to create an impression, a positive impression. And earlier we talked about putting in the hours and work and staying late in the office. How much of that is also putting up a front to the boss, right? Let's talk more about this, after a short break. I'm chatting with Susan Sadler, who is a career and executive coach at Sadler Communications Pte Ltd. She's also past president of the International Coach Federation Singapore chapter, telling us more about how to up our effectiveness quotient in this age of busyness. More coming up here on A Slice of Life Hour with me, Eugene Loh, on 938 Live. Hi, I'm Eugene Low on A Slice of Life R. For some do-it-yourself motivation, we are talking about busting through the busyness of our modern age and upping our effectiveness quotient. How much are we really getting done each day? It suddenly feels like we're doing a lot, right? We're coming at 8 and we're going to leave at like 12 hours is the reality. I mean, it almost sounds like a joke, but the reality is a lot of us are putting in those kind of hours. And you wonder, how much of that really translates into actual work and proper work done? How effective are we? Are we doing more but we're getting less done? Susan Sadler is my guest today. She is a career and executive coach at Sadler Communications Pte Ltd. And past president of the International Coach Federation Singapore chapter. And we talked about something very interesting. I'm just wondering whether earlier, we were talking about this tendency or this obligation to perhaps to appear like more responsive, being the fastest person to reply to an email, being the first to a meeting, being the last to leave the office. Is this something that you see happening quite a bit? And it's just more of like an obligation or a pressure to put up a facade or perception.
I think there is partially in the culture this idea of staying late equals I'm more productive. And I have to say it's a bit of a myth. In fact, research shows that you get no more out of a 10-hour day than you do an 8-hour day. In fact, study after study shows that more doesn't equal better. So that's, again, one of these things where you have to kind of retrain yourself. What are you really doing effectively after X amount of hours? I worked with a client who works late every night, and by his own admission, he really didn't know why. He had to admit that it just had become a habit. So he wasn't really sure why he was doing that, and he didn't like the role model he was setting for his team. So started small. So what was one thing you could do differently?
And what was it? Because his colleagues were doing the same thing, or was it expected or implicitly, expected from the boss?
Yeah, I mean, it was a little bit of that. It was kind of a little bit of their organizational culture. So it wasn't so much, he wasn't trying to prove anything. It was just, well, this is the way it is. And his home life was suffering. His family life was suffering. He was on the verge of burnout. So it was, the impact was serious. So he picked one night a week to leave on time. And again, like we talked about earlier, guess what? The sky didn't fall down. Everything was okay. He felt hugely refreshed just by leaving one night. It set a better example for the team. The morale started getting better. And that gave him a small success to build on the next success, which was leaving another night on time. And so he created this really great upward spiral. That's what I mean about, start small.
Yeah, just simply, examining your schedule and just starting somewhere, picking out some things perhaps which are not so necessary, and just just making your schedule leaner and meaner, getting the things that you have to get done. And then, the rest is just, a very easy thing to understand that we need to have some time and space away to be ourselves in order to rejuvenate and recharge in order to do the work better, right? It's not like in those days where we were in a factory line, and if you spend 10 hours means you produced that many more products. These days most of us are in capacities where we are using more of our creativity, our intangible sort of skills. Right,
yeah,
and we
that's so true. And this idea of creating a downtime or carving out space for oneself, I think is so challenging for so many people, because they think the last thing I have time for is myself. I don't have time for a hobby or to do anything. I can barely get done what I need to do. But this is the thing that you might be surprised. It can be easier than you think. This doesn't mean a whole-scale revamp of your life. It just means maybe there are a couple of things you can do differently. For example, movement. I mean, that is just physically change your state. So start small. If you just walk your dog or run around the block or take a class.
Something physical.
Something physical.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. We'll continue to chat more with Susan after the headline news, sports and business here on 938 Live. And we're talking more about, busting through the busyness of our modern day and increasing our effectiveness, getting more done, perhaps by doing less. It is possible.
It is.
And in fact, we should be doing more of that. So actually, so that we can be more effective these days at work as well, because we do need to rest. We're not machines. We don't run on batteries. And so we'll continue to chat with Susan in just a bit here on the Slice of Life Hour with me, Eugene Loh, on 938 Live. Busy is good, right? More is better. Well, not necessarily. I mean, for many of us these days, we're finding that, amidst all this technology, we're just thinking, let's just add more. Let's just put on, we have so much available. Let's just add another screen, another another gadget, more tweets, more SMSs. And we think that, we're getting so much, from this, from the internet, but really how much of it is really productive and how much of it is really time wasting, not just time wasting, but I think, it affects our spirit too, isn't it? I mean, it can be so draining on our spirit as well, so exhausting. And that's what we're talking about today. Are we busy for the right reasons, and how can we become more effective, perhaps by just streamlining our lives? We may be doing less, but doing those things in a much better way. We're chatting with Susan Sadler today, who is a career and executive coach at Sadler Communications Pte Ltd and past president of the International Coach Federation Singapore chapter. Now, Susan, all this technology, right?
Yes.
Tell us about
There's no shortage.
Yes, abundance of technology. Tell us your thoughts about it.
Well, here's the thing. The technology and gadgets should help us.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, prioritization, daily effectiveness is how you approach time. So some of it is just getting out of our own way and thinking long and hard about how do I approach time. You are in control of your time. Time does not control you. We're never going to get 25 hours in a day. So we have to think about then, okay, if I am in control, what might be a few practical things I can think about and do every day? I mean, if you were really motivated, I would coach you to keep a three-day time diary. And you have to write down everything you're doing in, say, 30-minute increments. It would be like if you were doing a fitness and nutrition program. The first thing the nutritionist is going to say is keep a 3-day food diary, write down every single thing you're eating for 3 days.
Okay. I mean, time is, I suppose, one of our most precious commodities, isn't it?
It is,
right?
And we waste a lot of it.
Yeah, and we often think about, come on, I'm just at the office. I'm just, wasting my employer's time, actually. But you're not really. It's your time.
Yes.
It's your resource. Every minute, every hour, they just squander away on something that isn't productive. You're wasting your own life.
There is an incredible amount of wastage on a daily basis. And one of the things to think about is how you start your day. So a couple of things. If you left your house 15 minutes early, could that have a big impact on feeling less stressed? Not an hour, not 2 hours, maybe just 15 minutes. How about when you get to work, is the first thing you do sit down and go through your emails and voicemail?
Yes.
So that so that's not uncommon. I can hear the nods of your listeners right now.
Yeah.
So that's your inbox controlling you. So if you have to do that, you just say, oh, that's just how I have to start my day. That's the expectation. Okay, then at least devise some kind of system where the most important things are red flagged, or there's a tone, or whatever it is, and those get your attention, and the rest you scroll through and you attend to later, so that you can do the things that are more important, like I don't know, maybe you have to prepare for a meeting with your boss, or write a policy piece, or do an important presentation, debrief a colleague. Those probably are the things that you are going to be more evaluated on than how quickly you rifle through your inbox.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean don't be responsive.
Sure.
It's
yes.
that back to that, can we retrain ourselves and retrain others that it doesn't have to be so instant.
Yeah. It can be so seductive, this technology, right? And it can be very easy for us to lull ourselves into this feeling that, hey, I'm doing work, right?
Yes.
Every email that I kind of like re-pour through and then get every detail, I'm doing real work. But actually that's taking the time away, because like we were talking about earlier, everyone can clear emails, read emails, reply to emails, but what's more essential to our job scope is the quality of the creativity we bring to our jobs. And that kind of creativity can only come about when you're alive, when you're living, when you're passion driven, and you're not bogged down by all these sort of things that that really drain your spirit.
Absolutely. I would imagine you've probably had this experience where maybe you're in the shower, or riding an MRT, or in the car, or doing something kind
Swimming.
Yeah, swimming. Great one. Great example. Yeah. And some really great idea comes. Right? So that usually doesn't happen when you're rifling through your inbox and replying. We have to create that kind of white space in our brain for these ideas to come, for them to incubate and percolate. And that is science. That's science-based, that we have to let that happen to get some of that creativity. It fuels our imagination. And that might be more meaningful in your job and in your career than sitting there letting your inbox control you.
Yes, absolutely. Because a lot of the time I think we're bogged down by really kind of like trivial tasks that are rather menial, that actually anyone can do. But what you bring to the table that is uniquely you is your talents, your ideas, right? And we should be giving some time to that. We're not saying, don't tend to your inbox or don't read your SMS. We're saying, yes, do that, but you need some time each day for that creation of white space, like you mentioned, that is so essential for you to be able to tap into your mental resources for the ideas to come.
It is, and there are some great apps now that one is called Headspace, another is Take a Break. There's like a 7-minute work refresher meditation thing. That's what I mean about starting small. That's 7 minutes. Maybe you can carve out a 7-minute break sometime during your workday, or say you need a little more drive. There's a new app called Carrot that will talk to you and say things like, "Come on, lazy human," and it really gamifies the whole idea of getting tasks done. It has some rewards, so it makes it kind of fun. So there are some fun things out there to help you get through some of the tasks. The other thing is that just how you very rightly mentioned that the creativity, the innovation, the smart thinking is probably why you're doing your job. So you need to not only create that space, but also think about when you're doing that. So again, if you start your day by open your inbox, see 300 emails, go through that, you have to save some of that time for I call it the heavy lifting. So when you are writing something or thinking about something or devising a strategy, do that sooner rather than later, because typically that's when we're all more productive.
Yeah. That should come first, when your mental resources are at their highest.
Yeah, your mental energy is better.
Yeah.
Earlier.
And that is very energizing as well. When you feel like you have actually, achieved something, you've done something that is different, an idea that is great. That is what energizes you as a human being as well. It can be very disempowering and very exhausting when you feel you're plateauing. You're just going through the motions, clearing things every day, clearing, but not getting the kind of different results that you really should be doing, right? And so if every day you can devise something that helps maybe you improve some part of your work, and you can actually feel that is very empowering.
It's empowering. It's fuel. It's fuel for your soul, really, for your work soul, if there is such a thing, to really keep going. It's very gratifying, and there will be tasks that are maybe less important, but still need to be done. So it doesn't mean, like we've been talking about, you just ignore those things flat out. Maybe one of the things to think about, is there something that can be delegated? Sometimes that's really hard for people. They like the control and like to think that they have to do everything. So that's another area to think about. Is there one thing of these less important tasks that I could delegate to somebody?
Right. Okay.
Try it. See how it goes. Now, it's not going to be something that's high risk or very, very important. That wouldn't make sense. But something in that realm that's taking your time, that's a little bit draining, that could probably be done by somebody else.
Yeah. Another thing I found rather useful for myself is to some tasks which may be kind of like manual, menial things that very often we feel very tempted to get done first, right? That really takes a lot of time, that by the end of the day it's like, what have I done really? Those tasks maybe just kind of like put them towards maybe even to the weekends. We can even do that at home, but you can make them more fun, because when you're at home, you can maybe listen to music, you can dance while doing them or something, right? And then it doesn't become so laborious, but you get it done anyway, right?
Yes.
So during the work week, when you're at work, you actually do things that you are, that they require, more creative thinking, more idea generating.
Yeah, and that gets back to the prioritizing.
Yes.
And those things do need to be done. And it is gratifying to do some of those things. Yeah. So we just need to put it in the right priority.
Yes.
So great idea. Wait till, Friday afternoon or the weekend. Put them all in one, spot, and then get through those things. But don't, kind of resist that temptation to do these time-eating activities with virtually no return on the investment of your time and energy.
All right. And we've got a couple of minutes left to the show. Is there any final message you'd like to give to our listeners with regards to, being perhaps less busy, getting more work done, be more effective, Susan?
Well, two things, I think, Eugene, and that is start small and try something. Get something into action.
Yeah.
Give it a go. And try it. Some of these things are really a work in progress. Give it a go, and if it doesn't work and you don't like it, you don't have the energy to keep going, that's fine. Let it go. Try something new. Give it a reasonable go, not 5 minutes. Give it a reasonable try. Yes. And if it doesn't, there's nothing to be said that you have to be married to something. So if the delegation doesn't work, you try something else. If the inbox, you're not flagging them correctly or whatever it might be, try it out, see how it goes. And if it doesn't work, you don't like it, try something else. But the idea is try something. And you might be surprised how impactful small changes can be.
Yes. That's the key, isn't it? Actually trying it out. Then you innovate. And really from every experience, even if it doesn't work out, you do learn something from it.
You do.
Yeah. They can apply to a future endeavor. Yeah, so nothing's really wasted in that sense. So you're constantly innovating in small ways, and that's the trick to really actually do it. I think most people are they don't think about it because they're just so stressed, they're just so busy, life is just so chaotic.
It's hard sometimes to think, I don't even know where to start. So it's paralyzing, so you do nothing. So if you just start with one small thing and try it out, see how it goes, and you might be surprised that even a small change could have a big impact on how effective and you are every day and how less busy you can feel.
All right. Thank you very much, Susan, for coming in today and sharing
Thank
your
you.
insights with us. Susan Sadler is my guest today, a career and executive coach at Sadler Communications Pte Ltd. She is past president of the International Coach Federation Singapore chapter. If you have something to share with me as well on the show, do email me, eugene@mediacorp.com.sg. I'm Eugene Loh. This has been a Slice of Life hour. Thank you so much for your company here on 938 Live.